Hello, everyone. Good morning. Can everyone hear me? Thumbs up if you can. Awesome. All right. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to share my screen. All right. All right. I'm going to go ahead and get started. Sorry. There we go. Okay. There we go. Much better. All right. So my name is Tiffany Holliday. I'm an occupational therapy student. I'm here in collaboration with Allegheny Mountain Institute and Project Rose, and you are here to see the ergonomic tips and tools for gardening and farming. This is a part of my doctoral project, so I'd like to welcome you. I am at school at Murphy-Deming College of Health Sciences, a part of Mary Baldwin. I'm completing my final semester here with Allegheny Mountain Institute and Project Rose. I've been teaching them proper ergonomic farming and gardening techniques. This is an open format. If you have any questions, feel free to type the questions in the chat box or do the hand raising function, and we will get to your questions. If we need to, we'll circle back to them, so hold on to them or write them down in the chat. I do want to warn you that today's webinar is being recorded. For those that cannot attend live, if you're not comfortable with this, feel free to click on the camera icon and it will turn your screen off so you won't be recorded. I also want to send out a thank you to Allegheny Mountain Institute for hosting this webinar. We were supposed to be in person, but here we are. So let's go ahead. Let me make sure I didn't have any more notes for the start. All right, let's go ahead and get started. So today we're going to be looking at the role of an occupational therapist in ergonomics in gardening and farming. We're going to be looking at some common musculoskeletal disorders that are associated with gardening and farming. And we're also going to discuss some of the common disorders, their prevalence, and then I made a video, and it has fellows and farm staff from both Allegheny Mountain Institute and Project Rose. So I hope you enjoy that. We'll talk about that afterwards. We're going to go into some ergonomic tools. We're going to identify and discuss various tools to adapt or to purchase. And then we're going to look at ergonomic techniques that you can do with your body that don't require tools. All right, then we'll do a wrap up and have questions. So the definition of ergonomics is the scientific study of human work. So this discipline it combines anatomical, biomechanical, physiological, psychological, and social factors of work. This creates an understanding of how humans work in your environment and within your communities. So occupational therapy looks at how to enable people of all ages to live their fullest by helping them promote healthy habits to prevent or even to better do anything that they want to do in their lives through injury, illness, or disability. This doesn't have to be major, it can be minor. Those injuries or disabilities that just come from getting older, those typically are arthritis, tendinitis. We'll get into those. OT practitioners can help individuals adapt and overcome or to use ergonomic techniques to decrease the risk of injuries to help individuals achieve your personal goals. This is, whether you want to be gardening, which is maybe why you're here, or farming, different tasks. So that's what OTs can help do. This is how we and ergonomics combine. to help anybody in the community. All right, so the World Health Organization defines musculoskeletal disorders as health problems of the musculoskeletal system, which enables movement. These include your muscles, your tendons, your skeletal, cartilage, ligaments, and nerves. These health problems range from light and acute disorders. So this is just that muscle pain from working too hard to irreversible chronic disabling injuries. So this might mean that arthritis or tendonitis, things that don't go away after a day of working out or working on in your garden. So some common musculoskeletal disorders among gardeners and farmers is carpal tunnel syndrome, tendonitis, muscle tendon strains and ruptures, back, neck, shoulder, and knee pain. These injuries are common due to the high repetitive nature of the activities performed during gardening and farming tasks. So a study according to Osborne Blake et al. 2012, the lifetime prevalence of musculoskeletal disorders for any disability was 90.6%. This is a very high number. So within 1 year, the average was 76.9%. The most commonly reported pain was low back pain. The second most common was both upper and lower extremities. So if you think about the disorders that we just talked about, and then you look at the data, it does match up. You know, we're talking that low back pain, shoulder pain, and then upper and lower extremity pain. So why are we getting these pains? Some of the most common high-risk gardening and farming tasks that we do are those repetitive tasks in a very poor posture. That repetitive bending, lifting, and twisting. That's a lot of pressure on the spine, and then long durations of exposure to demanding tasks. So not only are we doing repetitive or bending, lifting, and twisting, but we're doing it for long periods of time. Think about when you're out in your garden, how long are you out there? You're out there for a couple of hours, and you know, you really don't feel it until you stand back up and you're like, oh, that really hurts my back. So that's stuff that we want to look at, taking a break from that. All right, so I'm going to give you a little warning that the stretches in the video that you're going to see are general. They're not intended for everybody. Individuals with pain or particular diagnosis should see your healthcare provider for your own individual program. And then also, I wanted to say that not every way that we have shown in the video is the only correct way. There are many ways that these activities can be modified. We wanted to show a general overview, a very common task, and then the correct way to do it. But as I told like the fellows and the farmers and the farm staff, if it hurts, stop. We can find another way to do it where it does not cause you pain. You should not feel pain. All right. Also, we have sped up the video, the stretching to just for time. So stretches should be held between 10 to 15 seconds. So in the video, you're going to see that it's very sped up, but that was for time purposes. I also want to say that both Allegheny Mountain Institute and Project Grows, they do have a list of stretches, but even that's not all encompassing. We looked at major body parts, major body joints, and did stretches based on those, but those still aren't all that there are. So if you have questions, they can answer those, and then I can also answer some of those questions. So we're gonna go ahead and get into the video now. Occupational therapy student completing my doctoral project at Allegheny Mountain Institute at Augusta Health and Project Grows. This video is intended to provide examples of pre-work stretches, ergonomic tips, and techniques to decrease the risk of injuries commonly seen in gardeners and farmers. Performing stretches prior to beginning garden and farming activities is important to increase the flexibility and prepare the body for gardening and farming tasks. Performing pre-work stretches that include the major joints in the body help reduce strains by preparing the muscles, tendons, and ligaments for the daily task. With stretching and with gardening and farming activities, make sure you are taking frequent breaks, and if you feel pain, stop. Switch activities before joints or muscles become painful. For more details on the stretches or to get ideas for more stretches, please contact the farm staff. Throughout this video, I will be showing incorrect and correct ways to perform common gardening and farming tasks and some helpful tricks and tips along the way. Ensure each member of the team is taught and understands the proper way to use large machinery, power tools, and other farming and gardening equipment. Make sure that each individual has safety gear, including eye protection, ear protection, and anti-vibrational gloves to help reduce the effects of using power tools and large equipment on the body. When picking up objects from the ground, avoid bending at the waist. Keep your back straight and bend at the knees. Have a partner to help with awkward, bulky, or heavy loads. If you must carry heavy loads, ensure that the loads do not exceed 50 pounds. Ensure you have a firm grasp on the item. If not, place the item back on the ground and pick them up again. Ensure you are using your legs to lift items and not your back. Use wheelbarrow, dollies, pallet trucks, or utility carts for objects that have to be carried more than a few feet or for heavy loads. Provide handles on containers. Handles can be built up with foam, pool noodles, or other rubber material to increase the handle grip, decrease pain with grasping. Redesign loads so that they can be lifted and carried close to the body. Reaching overhead for items. Ensure that you are looking forward and not looking up, as this can cause back strain. Remember to lift with your legs, not with your back. Avoid bending at the waist by performing squats, modified lunges. Ensure that you are keeping your back straight and bending your knees. Finding ways to reduce the amount of bending, lifting, twisting, and carrying of heavy loads is important to reduce your risk of musculoskeletal disorders. Having a partner may reduce the amount of repetitive bending, lifting, and twisting that is done during common farming and gardening tasks. A good tip is to allow gravity to assist you using farming equipment, including spades, hoes, and raking. By doing this, you are reducing the amount of force put through the tool. When performing activities using upright tools, including raking, hoeing, and shoveling, it is important to start with a staggered stance with one leg in front of the other, and switch legs and hands often to reduce fatigue and strain. Avoid twisting with just your body, your whole body. Ensure that the long handled tool is long enough to keep your back straight. Use an underhanded grip to dump materials from wheelbarrows. For standing work, use floor mats or padding to reduce fatigue. Ensure workstations are at proper heights. Elbows should be at 90 degrees and close to the body. Build up your workstation by using bins or other materials. Also wish to place commonly used items at waist level for ease of use. Position items that are used often within 17 inches of the worker's body. By repositioning how we carry items, the weight distribution can be moved from just the arms to the whole body. Ergonomic handles can reduce pressure on the hands. Grasp the water can handle by the back and allow gravity to tilt the spout. Remember to carry heavy items close to the body. Ensure that you are using the proper tool for the job you are doing, and remember, your hand is not a hammer. Do not twist your upper body. If performing twisting, ensure that you move your whole body. Avoid bending at the waist. Keep your back straight and bend your knees. Performing squats, modified or modified lunges. When kneeling, keep one knee on the ground and the other up, switching as needed to alleviate pressure or discomfort. Provide seated jobs. Sitting down while working reduces the strain on the lower back and legs. Standing causes legs to swell more than walking does. When movements are repeated over and over, as in planting, harvesting, weeding, or shoveling, allow enough time in between for adequate recovery or switch tasks for a low repetition task. Remember, keep your back straight and avoid twisting with your upper body. Instead, move your whole body. I would like to give a special thank you to all the farmers, farm staff, fellows, and office staff at Allegheny Mountain Institute at Augusta Health and at Project Grows. Although I came there to teach ergonomic tips, just know that you guys have taught me so much in return. Thank you. Okay. So we can go ahead and open it up to some questions about the video, or if you'd like to hold on through a few, we'll get through a few more slides and then we'll open it up to questions. If anybody has one, you can unmute now, or I'll keep going. All right, I'm gonna keep going. To reduce the risk of injuries, always ensure that you're using proper body mechanics and that you match that with adequate safety practices. Throughout this experience, sometimes I struggle to find where safety began and ergonomics ended. And I don't think that was the right approach because they are intertwined. For example, wearing gloves is good for reducing the risk of cuts, scrapes. It also reduces friction on your tools and vibration from using heavy, vibrational tools, power tools, items like that. Also, another example of that is wearing long sleeves when you're outside. I know that it gets very hot and that's counterintuitive, but wearing long sleeves also reduces the amount of cuts, scrapes. It also reduces anything that touches your bare skin. One that I ended up with poison ivy throughout my experience. And I actually did have a long sleeve shirt on, so that was good because it limited to the spread of where that poison ivy actually went. Ensuring that you take frequent breaks to get water, stay hydrated when you're outside in the sun. That goes into that good ergonomics and safety. So it was very hard for me to realize that those two things intertwined without making it sound safety versus ergonomics. There are many different tools and ways to adapt our tools. I have two examples here, and I have many more on the screen. These will help reduce stress on your body and also increase safety during these farming and gardening tasks. So the next few slides, we're going to look at our common tools used during farming. I do want to point out that trade and organization names have been used to simplify information. There was no endorsement intended. A lot of these you can just search by the name and the other brands will also pop up. All right, so some upright tools. I found this really cool upright weeding and removal tool, and it's a step trigger. You dig it into the ground and it will uproot a weed. or I guess a plant. If you wanted to try to use it for that, you might crush the roots. For weeds, you want to do that though. I also found these easy grip handles. They're add-on, so they just slide onto the long-handled tool to allow you to maintain a straight back. I also found some power tools. This one's a battery-powered tiller, and they had battery-powered, so many different tools, battery-powered. It was really awesome to see that. And the important thing is to keep it lightweight. A lot of times power tools can get heavy or bulky, and that's not really going to help with good ergonomics if it becomes heavy. Also, this shovel is it has a good ergonomic handle for good grasp. It also has a very pointed end, so that way it's easier to shovel and get down into the earth, into the ground. That makes it easier on your back, on your ergonomics to use it this way, versus if you have a dull shovel, that's not going to help you reduce the amount of force needed to dig up plants, dig a hole to put a plant in, all the things you do with shovels. All right, so next we're going to go over to some hand tools. I love this because there are ways to adapt your tools without buying anything. You see here that first picture is a pool noodle, which I actually did, went and bought a pool noodle, and I'm going to show you that it's as easy as having your tool, and I cut it into a strip big enough so that it fits my whole hand, and all you do is cut a strip down the side, and you've got your tool. So, you know, for those that really find it painful to grasp a short or a skinny tool, building it up is very helpful. Also, another way, a DIY, is to just have a washcloth. You see that there's a hand towel just wrapped around the hand tool, and all I've done, I've taped it, but you can use a safety pin or any sort of clasp on there to wrap it around. I would wrap it around and then close it. I've already pre-measured this one, and I like this one because it's very soft. It's softer than the pool noodle, and this also allows for a better grasp on that tool. They also have curved ergonomic tools, and the important thing to think about with hand tools is you want to keep your wrist in a very neutral position. When we use garden tools, and I know I don't have a good angle, we use them like this, and our wrists are not in a straight line, so in neutral is what we say. And when you grasp a tool like this, you maintain that very neutral position. And this is I like to think of it as a very young kid holding a crayon. And so what this will allow you to do is to dig this way, and you can do this with the other tools as well. The curved handles allow you to do that without holding it like this. Those handles are already pre-curved for that. Once again, we have those easy grip add-ons. You can add those on to a short handle tool or a long handle tool. I also have a good pair of ergonomic gardening shears right there. And I'm going to go into detail as to what makes shears ergonomic. All right. Before we do that, I'm going to go into some sitting and kneeling ideas. The first one you see is a do-it-yourself bucket. You can actually just have a bucket, but they have went the extra step and used a screw to screw on a seat. I think it's an old tractor seat, if I'm not mistaken. And that website has how to do it. There's also commercial tool benches and kneeling ideas. The middle one is an adjustable foam. You can sit on it or kneel on it, and it folds up. This one seems to have some sort of carrier on the side, so you can carry your tools with you. So that's a good idea. And then also the wheeled one. So that one's just a seat. It's the same concept as just having a bucket. That one just allows you to move without standing. You still want to stand and stretch. You don't, just like sitting at a desk all day, you don't want to just be sitting. You do want to rotate what you're doing and move around a little bit. But this is a good idea if you have a lot of low plants that you're trying to take care of at once. All right, so like the video talked about, we can adapt tools and we can also adapt our body. So this is in written form what the video said. Using the various long-handled tools, you want to establish good body posture, avoid bending at the spine, you want to bend at the knees, keep one leg in front of the other, and you want to switch this because the force, you're putting a lot of force through that front leg, so switching equalizes the amount of force you're using, and you're not just using one leg. Ensure you're using a tool with a long enough handle so you can stand up straight. Lean your body weight into the shovel. So don't just use your arms for the motion. You want to actually put one foot on the shovel and use your whole body weight, not just your arm strength to do that when you're shoveling it into the ground. Avoid twisting at the spine. You want to actually move your whole body. I taught this as like a two-step. You want to move your feet when you're moving to dump anything. So you don't want to just hurl it over because that's putting a lot of pressure throughout your spine. And it's also putting pressure throughout those tendons and ligaments. For rakes, hoes, and spades, we know that the head of those can be heavy. So if you let gravity pull that down, then pull it. And you still want to be using your whole body and not just your upper body. So that's why it's important to have that one leg in front of the other. That allows you to use your whole body when you're doing these activities. So using these short handled tools, this is a good image that I found that shows that motion. This shows that the wrist being rounded versus keeping it straight and neutral. Because when we do this, we're pulling a lot of those tendons and ligaments across the wrist. Avoid leaning forward with a rounded spine. Instead, you want to use that modified squat, and then you want to switch legs while you're doing it to avoid a lot of fatigue. Once again, you want to avoid twisting at the spine, and you want to actually move to the next position. You can, I would say, use a tool to dig up plants and weeds. Don't use your hands. I know it's easier, and I'm very guilty of this myself, as I will just pick it up and grab it. But think about that over and over again, how much stress you're really putting on your hands. When if you have a tool, I would recommend using a tool versus using your hands, because our hands are tools, I agree, but they're not specific tools. They are tools to hold your other tools. Okay, yeah, talked about that. So planting positions, we know that you can stand to plant if you're planting a lot of seeds or working in potted plants. You want to stand. Make sure that the things that you're using very commonly are within that 17-inch reach. Anything, and then things that you aren't using very common, have them within 21 inches of your workstation. So that means like when you're looking out at your workstation, you don't want to be doing a lot of reaching over, because that's a lot of that bending at the spine. So if you're standing, use something that's padded, cardboard underneath, or they make the foam rubbery pads that you can stand on. Make sure that you have adequate leg and feet space. You don't want your knees bumping up against a table, or you don't want to be standing so far back away from the table that you are already exceeding that 17-inch reach. You can also make the table height sitting height, and you still want to keep your arms at that 90 degrees and close to the body, as close to 90 degrees as you can. It's not always going to be perfect, but as close as you can. That'll reduce a lot of wear and tear on the shoulder by keeping your arms extended. So for a stooped work, this is planting directly into the ground. You want to make sure that you're keeping your back straight. Avoid rounding it. That we get very complacent in what we're doing, and we'll just get going fast, and we see that back starts getting rounded. That's when you can start feeling that pain and that pull in that lower back, and that's when you stand up and say, "Oof, I was doing that wrong." So we want to use the modified squat or that modified lunge, and then switch legs often to reduce the fatigue on just one joint, one knee. And if you do have knee pain, there are other ways to modify this position so that you're not putting pressure on those knees. All right, a few more. So pruning, this is what we're talking about with the shears. You want to make sure that you're using a spring-loaded handle on those dual handle tools. This allows the shears to open back up on their own, because what we find is that so doing this is one motion, and then having to pull them apart causes a lot more strain on the hand. So the handle should be 4 to 5 inches in length. You want it to fully cover the hand. So this, we want to make sure that it's up all the way throughout the hand. And then the diameter for smaller hands is 1 to 3/8 inches, and then for larger hands, 2 inches, 2 1/8. And those are all in the details on these shears. I looked them up, and it was very easy to find that information. And then you can build up those handles as well with smaller towels. I even saw some that had it's not going to last long, but some paper towels, built those up and then just taped them on there to kind of give a little bit more padding and comfort. For lifting, avoid lifting those items that are more than 50 pounds. I'm not saying to measure it, but if it's uncomfortable to lift it, it is probably too heavy. You want to avoid lifting items overhead, as this causes a lot of strain through the shoulders, and you want to lift with your legs. All the power should come from your upper legs and that gives you that boost to hold those items up. Have a partner for those awkward or bulky items, and then keep your arms close to the body, allowing those elbows to stay near that 90 degrees. This picture is not really fair because those baskets are empty, but you want to keep the loads where you can allow yourself to keep your arms pretty close to the body, because your core is going to help you really with that weight. You don't want your arms lifting all that weight. You want your core to be able to hold that weight. All right, so using a wheelbarrow, you want to make sure that when you're pushing it with your core once again. We get into the habit of thinking that our upper body should do all this weight, when ultimately it's still coming from your core. It's still coming from your upper legs, because you want to really plant down your foot and push the heavy the wheelbarrow or the cart. When dumping the items, you want to have an underhanded grip underneath the handles and to push up, and you want to step forward into the wheelbarrow so that you're not leaning over the wheelbarrow to dump it. You want to stay as close to it as you can. We don't want you tripping on the wheelbarrow legs, so be very cautious of that, but staying very close to it so that you or the wheelbarrow don't fall over, but that you're not just using your upper back to push those items. All right, so I have a few resources that were very good, and I just felt compelled to share them, and they're on here. I also want to give, once again, a very special thank you to Allegheny Mountain Institute for sponsoring this webinar and having me in their facility this semester. It's been amazing. I also have given Grayson a full document that has a lot of ergonomic information. I really shortened it for this presentation. there's also an ergonomic brochure that I've left with Allegheny Mountain Institute that they can hand out. All right, and there are my references. Any questions? No questions? Oh, here we go, chat. Well, it tells me chat. Oh, here we go. I will preface this with I'm still a student. I know that the research behind back braces, and you want to talk to your healthcare provider to see what their opinions are. The research that we have been shown, that we have looked into with any kind of brace, braces are, they're good for their purpose, but they reduce the amount of work your muscles are doing. And when we reduce the amount of work our muscles are doing, and we do that for long periods of time, those muscles then become weaker because we're not using them. We have a brace on that's kind of doing the work for us. So talk to your physician. But I don't think they're bad, and I don't think they're great. It just depends on what you're using them for. And yeah, I know that was not a good answer. All right, any other questions or concerns from anybody? I know this ended up being a quick, I did want to show you, I did want to go ahead and show you how to realistically use this in some dirt. I do have a little demo prepared. Let's see if I can tilt that down. Okay. Here we go. So what I was saying is to hold it like the kid with the crayon and dig this way. And you can do this with weeding. I've made a mess, that's okay. We have a vacuum cleaner. And then one of the common things with using your hands is a lot of people, we squeeze, we want to get the roots up, and they squeeze. I would say instead of using the tips of your fingers, use your whole hand. Grasp it with the whole hand to loosen those roots up. And then, if I can do this without making a huge mess, maybe my brother won't. There we go. So being very careful of those roots because they're all put together. Let's see. Most common examples of poor posture you found among farmers at both sites. I will say that with everybody, including myself, poor posture that I saw was bending over at the waist. We do that so much and we don't even think about it. We just bend straight over. We don't think to do that modified lunge or modified squat when we're bending over. Even just to pick up something quick, we just bend over at the waist, and we just haven't trained it in our mind that bending the knee is going to be better long-term than bending over at the waist and putting that repetitive stress on the back, the low back. Who makes good ergonomic hand tools? Ooh, I saw so many out there that that's a really hard question. Let's see. If you go into some of those images that I had, just Google it, man. That's where I started, and it took me into the deep world of the internet to find these ergonomic hand tools. But like the image, anything that keeps your wrist more in that neutral position versus this is going to be a good tool to use. Even during with upright tools, keeping that wrist in neutral will reduce a lot of that strain and stress on the wrist. All right. Well, I finally got this little flower out, and so I'm just gonna put it in and cover it up with the tools. You see, this oil is pretty loose, so doing anything with my hands is okay, but once you get into the ground and you're digging with your fingers into that ground, that's where you start getting that stress on the fingers. And so that's why I say go ahead and use a hand tool to really, even to dig those small holes, unless that ground is super moist from watering it or just loose topsoil, that's okay. But I, in general, just go ahead and say, use an ergonomic or use some sort of tool to dig holes or pull up weeds, anything like that, maintaining that straight wrist. All right. Any other questions, concerns, comments? I hope you guys have enjoyed this. It is recorded, so Grayson will have this recording for future use. All right. Well, if you guys don't have any more questions, we will go ahead and end this and email Grayson. Her email is on here. There we go. With any questions or concerns, and she has my email, so we will be able to get those answers to you if you come up with more later. All right, thanks for attending. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.